everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. A couple weeks ago we showed you the Diamondback DB9 Gen 4 that Diamondback sent us for a review. At the same time, they also sent us this revised AM2. They're effectively relaunching the AM2. It doesn't have a new generation or anything associated with it, but they've made a lot of performance, reliability, and ergonomic improvements to it. So we're going to go over the gun. I've never fired the original one, but I really did like this one. This one was fun at the range. It was comfortable to shoot. It was easy to shoot well. So there's a lot going for it. So what we'll do is first I'll show you some of the dimensions of it, some of the statistics, and then we'll get into some of the features and what they've changed. So from a statistics standpoint, it holds 12 in the flush mag. You'll see that it's 10 and then 12. And this is one of the changes. We'll talk about that right up front. The original AM2 mags held 10 in the flush mag and 15 in the longer mag. The new one holds 12 in the flush mag and 17. You'll see that the followers are orange now. That's one of the signs you can use to know if you've got a newer mag. On the flush mag, there's the original ones would also have had only the slot for 10. Now on the extended mag, the newer revisions will have a 17. They'll have a witness hole for a 17 according to the documentation I've got from Diamondback. This one only has the 15 witness hole, but it has the orange follower, and I was easily able to load 17 in it. So it will hold 17. But you can still use, if you've got the older mags, they'll still work. They just would hold the original 10 or 15. It's comfortable to hold. When you put the flush mag in, I get a 3-finger grip on it. Hammer with larger hands would get a 2.5-finger grip on it, but it's really easy to get a hold of. It has really good patterning on it. It's almost like a sandpaper texture, but it isn't actually sandpaper, it's in the plastic. But it doesn't beat up your hands, it doesn't tear you up. But when you've got a hold of it, it's going to stay put. You don't feel like you're going to lose control of it, no matter how sweaty, muddy, bloody, nasty, or whatever it is your hands get. You're going to hold on to this thing. From a dimension standpoint, it's 6.49 inches long, 4.6 or 5.6, depending on whichever mag you've got in it, and 1.09 inches thick. And of course, one thing I didn't do early on, it is of course unloaded, and of course we safety check all the guns before we ever start the video. It's got a number of other features that make it very useful for either concealed carry or home defense. It has a 3-slot Picatinny rail. The original AM2 only had 1 slot like the Glocks. They've added 2 slots. It has some texturing in front of the trigger guard, so if you like to put your finger up on the trigger guard, you can see it right there. I get the light on it. So if you're one of the people that likes to put your finger up on the trigger guard, you can. And it's got a nice undercut here so that you can get that finger right up in there, and a nice deep beaver tail, which is going to prevent slide bite and also really give you a good control over the gun. The barrel is a 3.5-inch barrel, and it's stainless steel, and so is the slide. It's also stainless steel with a black nitride coating. So it's got a lot of features that you would typically find in a more expensive gun. This has an MSRP of $339, and the street price is likely to be under $300. So in that price territory, you're getting a lot of features and capabilities that other guns have, but at a significantly higher price. For example, the P365, which this will compete favorably with, is a couple $100 more at least. And this has all the capabilities and features that gun has, including the capacity and lever size. It's also got a few nice features like the sights. It has these really bright 3-dot sights that are replaceable. They're Glock pattern, and you can also see there's a cock striker indicator. It has drop safety, it has a witness hole, and the extractor will stick out a little bit when there's a round in the chamber. So it's got all the typical safety features you would expect, including the split trigger to prevent an inertial pull if you drop it. So I have no reason to believe that this thing would be anything but drop safe, which of course is important in a carry gun or even a home defense gun. It has serrations at the front, easy to get a hold of, nicely textured, and nice looking. It's kind of a stylish gun, and of course it has really nice serrations at the back that are easy to get a hold of. We found this thing easy to operate. It was easy to change the mags, cycle it, anything we needed to do with it worked well. Now I kind of played with the trigger a little bit. Let's actually talk about the trigger. Make sure that it's cocked. There's a little bit of take up, It's a little bit longer than some, but it's really smooth and it's light. And then slight amount of creep in the brake, but not bad. 5.5 pound trigger, and it's got an over travel stop, which allows it to have a nice reset. And then you're right on the wall. Again, just a little creep in the brake and then a brake. This actually has quite a nice trigger. Both of us found it easy to use, easy to get good follow-up shots, and easy to work with. And a lot of times guns in the this price territory and this size don't have the nicest triggers. This one, they've done a really good job on the trigger. And that is also one of the changes that they've made. They've re-architected the fire control group to shorten the reset and improve the overall trigger pull. And I can see that that worked. They've done a good job with that. One of the other changes they made is they added some ribs. And if I can get a little bit of light in there, they added some ribs, and these go all the way up, and they're at the back, and they're to support the magazine and improve the overall stability. That's not a crack, that's just a fuzz. To improve the overall stability of the magazine in the mag well. And when you put the mag in, I'll put the extended mag in, it seats real well and solid. And now, of course, on the extended mag, you get a full 3-finger grip, no matter how big your hand is. And it integrates very smoothly and well. It's smooth integration here and up on the front, and neither one of us got pinched by the gap. So they did that quite well, and that's one of the things that, like Glocks, you can put the extended magazines in the Glocks, but there's really not a good extension on the market that integrates well. You look at some of the other guns like the Springfields and the Walthers, where the mag extensions integrate well, they've done the same thing. Overall, it's just easy to use. From the internal standpoint, I'll pull the magazine out. The next thing we'll do is we'll take it apart. I'll show you some of the internals. Disassembly is easy. It's like most of these striker-fired guns, the Glocks and all of those. Make sure it's clear, pull the trigger, give it a little squeeze, pull down on the little tabs, and it comes right apart. Inside, I'm going to set this aside for the moment. Inside, you'll see that it's really robust and well constructed. There's actually kind of a little mini frame inside of here, rails on both sides supporting the frame, and then really robust front and rear guide rails. Now, the frame isn't necessarily meant to be taken out by just pulling a pin off it like you would on the SIG P320. Sorry about that beep, dryer finished early. So as I was saying, this frame internally just makes the gun much more rigid, more robust, and it's going to make it more reliable feeding, cycling, and just staying accurate, staying in place. Talking about feeding, one of the other changes they made is this little integral feed ramp. And this is just to improve the overall reliability of feeding. The main feed ramp is on the barrel, and I'll show it to you. This just ensures that if for some reason a bullet kind of tips down a little bit and hits it, it'll guide it back up into the main feed ramp. So you're less likely to get it to hang up on a round. The trigger bar has been slightly re-architected, and you'll see it's rather thick and robust, so it's not going to bend and flex, which will again stay with a nice smooth trigger. I did really like the trigger on this. It just worked well. And of course you got the protrusion for the drop safety. And they also slightly re-architected the ejector to improve overall ejection. Now let's talk about the slide. It has a captive dual guide rod. I'm sorry, it's a single guide rod, but it's steel. And so it gives you a little bit of weight, a little bit more rigidity, and a wafer-sized style spring. Barrel smooth and well machined. It is stainless steel, as I mentioned earlier, and has a nicely polished feed ramp. And from a feeding perspective, I will say when we had this, we had no issues with it. It ate whatever it was we were feeding it. Under all of the conditions that we were under, it just worked. So it's proven so far in our experience to be a reliable gun. But if I were to take the barrel and put it in the frame, you'll see that your secondary feed ramp would ensure that any bullet that kind of tilted down gets kicked up into the main ramp and slides right up in. And again, it did work quite well. Machining on this is really well done. It is standard rifling, smooth, no burrs. So you can see down in there. So I've been impressed with the quality of this gun, especially given the price point. They made a few minor changes in here, and one of the things that they did change is the Extractor Claw. They kind of made it a little bit more robust, a couple extra notches on it to make it a little more solid to ensure proper extraction. So you're going to get good extraction, good ejection, and they made a few other minor changes to the architecture here for overall rigidity. And then here's your drop safety piston, similar to the newer Glocks where it's oblong and ramped. And of course there's your striker hook. But nicely machined. I didn't see any machining defects, burrs, or any of that. It's just well done. And here's your front sight, which can be replaced with a Glock sight, just like you would on a Glock. You unscrew it, put the sight in. So these are actually really nice sights. But if you're wanting TFO, TFX, or any of the other advanced sights that aren't available from the manufacturer directly, just go get them, put them on, and rock on. So let's go ahead and put this thing back together, which is as easy as getting it apart. Of course, you do want to make sure that the spring centers. It does have a tendency to self-center, but if not, it may get hung up on the frame. And you're back in business. So not only is it easy to work with at the range and easy to live with, it's actually easy to maintain, just like any of the other common modern striker-fired guns that are out there. From a size perspective, this competes with the P365, which we don't have one of. It also would compete with the Glock 43X, which is Glock's latest 10-round, single-ish stack carry option. And if I put them side by side, you'll see the Glock's actually a little bit taller. And when I stand them up, you'll see that the Glock is a little bit longer. Both of these hold 12 rounds. And if I set them up on their end, the only thing that makes the AM2 a little bit longer is the extended beaver tail. It has a longer beaver tail than the Glock does. But other than that, the slides are almost identical. So if you're trying to do it from a size perspective, I'm going to carry, I need it to be small, so I'm going to have to get the Glock, or I can't use the AM2. That's not really true. That little bit of beaver tail is not going to make a difference. So if you're not a fan of the Glock, or you haven't got the budget for a P365, or don't like the P365, which the P365 has had its issues, this really hasn't. Now another gun that you might be looking at would be something like this FNS-9c. This holds the same number of rounds. It's a little bit shorter than the AM2, but it's also a double stack, so it's thicker to get that same capacity. And if I go to the heights, set them up end to end, the AM2 is actually shorter. So if you get it to the point of you're looking at, I need something really slim, really thin to carry, the AM2 is ticking all the check boxes really easily. And the AM2 is at least $100 cheaper than either of the other two guns that I've shown you. But you don't seem to be compromising. A lot of times, I'm going to spend $100 less and I'm going to get a $100 less gun. That doesn't really seem to be the case here. They just seem to have done a well done job with it, and I do believe you're getting your money's worth. A couple other ancillary things I'll show you is they sent this holster to it with it. This one's from Para. What they've done is they've teamed up with half a dozen holster manufacturers. I'll put the list up on the screen while I'm talking, to ensure that when this hits the market, just like they did with the new DB9 Gen 4, there'll be holsters available day one. So this one is actually already available. The holster is also already available. And if you were to pick one of these up, you're not going to be stranded without magazines. You might not be able to get the extended capacity magazines, but you can easily get a hold of the older ones. The one other thing I forgot to mention, they've got a Teflon coating on the internal of the magazine to make it operate more smoothly on the new version. But you're going to be able to actually get right out there and run it. And what you're finding with the Glock 43X and some of the others is magazine availability is not there initially. So you take your gun, put it in this nice Kydex holster or the leather or the other options you got. You got room for your gun, you got room for a little knife, and you're good to go. You're all set up for your EDC. By the way, we'll have a video coming out on this fairly cool switch cleaver a little bit later. So we do thank Diamondback for sending us this gun. Comes with a little pouch, by the way. Almost forgot to mention that. So that you can carry it to the range fairly easily. Fits right in there, and there's room for another magazine in there, even in the holster. And I will mention their manual that it comes with it. It does cover their multiple gun line, so it's the same manual for several, but it's got lots of really clear pictures and clear direction in it. So unlike some manuals that are useless, this manual is actually quite good. And some multi-model manuals aren't easy to follow. That one has proven to do a good job of differentiating it. So in summary, you've got a good concealed carry gun that can also double as home defense, that is day one ready to use for either purpose with the various accessories available at a really reasonable price. Diamondback, you did a good job with this one. Thanks for letting us borrow it for a while. We will be doing some comparisons to this and several other guns, full comparisons. They've told us we can keep it as long as we need to do a couple different comparisons, so look for those. But beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe. If you do, click that bell to get notified. Check us out on Facebook and Patreon, and have a great day. Thank you.
Yeah,